Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have to say this latest General Hospital development immediately caught my attention because it feels like Jordan Ashford is walking into the most dangerous phase of her mission. For months, I have watched her carefully maneuver through Sidwell's world, keeping her true intentions hidden while trying to uncover the truth. She has always struck me as someone who stays calm under pressure, someone who thinks 3 steps ahead before making a move. But the more I look at the clues being dropped in this storyline, the more I feel that Jordan may be running out of room to hide. In Port Charles, secrets have a way of surfacing when people least expect it, and I can't help thinking that Jordan's secret may be closer to being exposed than ever before. What makes this situation especially fascinating is that Jordan was never simply trying to gather information. She was placing herself directly in the orbit of a man who has proven time and time again that he is intelligent, resourceful, and extremely dangerous. Jen Sidwell is not the kind of villain who overlooks details. He survives because he watches people closely, studies their behavior, and pays attention to things that others dismiss. That's why I find it hard to believe that he never questioned Jordan's motives at some point. A man like Sidwell may stay quiet for a long time, but that doesn't mean he isn't collecting information behind the scenes. When Jordan accepted the role that allowed her access to Sidwell's operation, she knew she was taking a huge risk. Her goal was simple: get close enough to uncover what he was really doing and expose the criminal activities hidden beneath his legitimate business dealings. It was a bold strategy, and for a while it seemed to be working. She gained access, earned trust, and slowly positioned herself where she could learn valuable information. Watching her operate reminded me of the years she spent as a DEA agent. Those instincts never truly disappear. Jordan knows how to investigate, how to read people, and how to recognize when something doesn't add up. However, experience can be both a strength and a weakness. Sometimes people who have spent years working undercover begin to believe they can manage any situation. They trust their instincts, and usually for good reason, but every operation has a breaking point. Every carefully built cover eventually develops cracks. Looking at everything happening now, I can't shake the feeling that those cracks are starting to appear around Jordan. One detail that really stands out to me is the fact that Jordan has been unable to find truly damaging evidence against Sidwell. At first, that might seem like a failure in the investigation, but I see it differently. To me, it suggests that Sidwell may have been cleaning up his tracks more effectively than anyone realized. Criminals who survive for years usually do so because they know how to protect themselves. They remove evidence, control information, and make sure very little can be traced back to them. If that's what Sidwell's been doing all along, then Jordan may have been fighting an uphill battle from the very beginning. The situation becomes even more concerning when you consider Sidwell's mysterious ability to remain active despite all the pressure surrounding him. Even after his downfall, he continues finding ways to operate behind the scenes. The meeting with Ezra Boyle at the Metro Court raised a lot of questions in my mind. How was Sidwell able to move around so freely? How did he manage to arrange private meetings without being caught? The answer could be simple: he has help. Whether it comes from loyal associates, hidden allies, or people placed in strategic positions, it certainly feels like Sidwell knows far more about what's happening around him than anyone suspects. That possibility leads directly to Jordan's biggest problem. If Sidwell has people feeding him information, then there is a good chance he has already heard things that point toward Jordan. Maybe not enough to prove anything yet, but enough to create suspicion. And once suspicion takes root in the mind of someone like Sidwell, every interaction starts looking different. Every conversation becomes a clue. Every coincidence becomes evidence. That's when things become truly dangerous. I also keep thinking about Brick and the role he could play in exposing Jordan's cover. Longtime viewers know that Brick's connection to Sonny Corinthos makes him one of the most important figures in Sonny's inner circle. If Sidwell has observed Jordan and Brick together on multiple occasions, he may start connecting dots that nobody intended him to see. It wouldn't take much. A few meetings, a few conversations, and a few suspicious moments could be enough to raise questions. From Sidwell's perspective, the pieces may fit together perfectly. He knows Sonny has every reason to oppose him. He knows Brick works closely with Sonny. If Jordan has been seen around Brick more than once, then Sidwell could easily begin wondering whether Jordan has been working against him from the start. Even if he lacks concrete proof, the suspicion alone could be enough to put Jordan in serious danger. The more I think about it, the more I believe that Jordan's greatest threat isn't exposure itself, it's what happens after exposure. If Sidwell discovers the truth, he isn't likely to confront her immediately. That's not how someone like him operates. Instead, I can imagine him becoming even more patient. He might quietly monitor her movements, watch who she meets, and use her connections to uncover information about others. In many ways, that would be even more dangerous than a direct confrontation because Jordan wouldn't realize she had become the target. What worries me most is that Jordan has invested so much of herself in bringing Sidwell down. This is no longer just another investigation. It has become personal. She has sacrificed time, energy, and her own safety to get this close. People who have come that far rarely turn back, even when warning signs begin appearing. That determination is one of Jordan's greatest qualities, but it could also push her into even greater danger if she refuses to recognize how much the situation has changed. As I watch this story unfold, I keep getting the same feeling. For months, Jordan believed she was the one hunting Sidwell. She believed she was the person controlling the investigation and moving closer to the truth. But now it feels as though the balance of power may be shifting. Sidwell appears to be gathering information of his own, and if that's true, then Jordan could soon find herself trapped in a game she no longer controls. That's what makes this storyline so compelling to me. It isn't simply about whether Jordan can expose Sidwell. It's about whether she can protect herself once Sidwell starts uncovering the truth about her. The closer she gets to bringing him down, the closer he may be getting to exposing her. And if both of those paths collide at the same moment, Port Charles could be headed toward one of the most explosive confrontations of the entire summer. As I look at where this story is heading, I can't help feeling that Jordan may soon find herself caught in a very dangerous situation, not because Sidwell has undeniable proof against her, but because he has something that can be just as dangerous: suspicion. The problem with Sidwell is that once he believes he has figured something out, he rarely stops to question whether he's actually right. In his mind, seeing Jordan around Brick could be all the evidence he needs. Brick leads to Sonny, Sonny leads to the efforts to undermine him, and Jordan suddenly becomes another name on his growing list of enemies. It may not be logical, and it certainly may not be fair, but villains like Sidwell often build their own version of the truth and treat it as fact. What makes this even more concerning is that Sidwell has a history of jumping to conclusions and refusing to let go of them. We've already seen how convinced he was that Pascal Levesque was responsible for Marco's death, only for the reality to be completely different. That kind of thinking makes Sidwell unpredictable. When anger and grief take over, he doesn't necessarily follow the evidence. Instead, he follows whatever explanation satisfies his need to blame someone. And right now, with his empire slowly crumbling around him, Jordan could become the perfect target. The walls are beginning to close in on Sidwell from every direction. His secret dealings, hidden business activities, and questionable operations throughout Port Charles cannot stay hidden forever. One by one, the truths he has worked so hard to bury are starting to surface. The more pressure he feels, the more desperate he is likely to become. And if there's one thing I've learned from watching characters like Sidwell over the years, it's that desperate people often make their most dangerous decisions when they feel cornered. That's why I believe Jordan should be more cautious than ever. Sidwell may soon convince himself that she was involved in the scheme that brought him down. He may even begin to suspect that Lucas wasn't acting alone, and that Jordan played a larger role than anyone realized. Whether those suspicions are accurate may not matter. What matters is what Sidwell believes. Once he decides someone has betrayed him, he tends to treat that person as guilty long before any real proof exists. From where I'm sitting, Jordan's greatest challenge may no longer be exposing Sidwell's crimes. It may be surviving the fallout when Sidwell starts connecting names, faces, and past encounters into a story that makes sense to him. And that's what has me most worried. A man who is losing power, losing control, and losing allies is often at his most dangerous. If Jordan truly ends up in his crosshairs, she could soon discover that bringing down a villain is only half the battle. Staying one step ahead of his revenge may prove to be the far more difficult task.